What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time stopping in, thank you for joining me. Today we're working on my Road Glide. We are going to be messing this thing up. We're going to be grinding, welding, and it's going to look much worse than it does right now by the end of this video. So let's jump in. So I hope that this ends up making sense to you guys. This is going to be one of those things where not everybody is going to go this route, but it is the right way to do something if you want a nice clean end result. So basically I have about $6,000 in parts that I'm waiting for that are going to take almost 2 months to get. I got a custom seat I'm also waiting on. I've got a new exhaust that I'm waiting on. It's pouring down rain outside. It's absolutely just horrible. It's cold. I got the fireplace going again. So I don't really have much in terms of new parts to show you guys currently. And this is something that's been on my list that I wanted to get to this winter. I figured if I'm not gonna be riding for the next few days, I might as well get a jump on this. So that's what I'm gonna be sharing with you guys today. First thing we're gonna do is take the bags off. We're gonna end up taking the rear fender off amongst other things. Okay, so bags are off. Next thing we're gonna be doing is removing the seat. I've got a Thrashin seat thumb screw, so it's different than the stock one would be. I don't remember what size Allen it is. I've gone over it in plenty of my videos. All right, we've got the seat out of the way. Now's as good a time as I need to share with you guys exactly what we're up to. Today we're gonna be removing the rear fender and making some modifications to it. One of my first big videos with you guys was drilling holes in my rear fender and flush mounting a license plate set up to it. I really liked it, it looked really clean. I've had a lot of questions about why I went with this custom dynamics mount instead. And honestly, I just wanted to see how it looked. I'm gonna end up giving it to my buddy Dan because we're actually doing a different route than either of those options. Also, when I did the custom dynamics tail lights, I had a lot of questions about what am I gonna do about all those holes that remain from the stock mounting position of the stock tail lights. And today we're addressing all of that. So, we're gonna have to figure out how to get all of this subframe stuff out of the way. Probably have to remove the reservoir mounts, maybe have to remove the tour pack mounts. I don't know what all I'm gonna have to remove to get the fender off, but that's what we're up to, so stick with me. We have to remove this metal tab here. Behind it is a T40 Torx that is holding the fender here. There's another one in this hole here that's holding it there. And then we have to remove a bolt that's holding the bracket on the inside of the fender down low back there, and then the license plate mount because we're going to disconnect the wire and it's going to go out that way. We are going to have to remove this strut rail, which means we're going to have to remove the tour pack mounts, the O'Lean's reservoir mounts. I'm already regretting this because this is going to go back together half done, and then I'll have to, you know, address it later. But as you can hear, probably, it's pounding down rain. It's awful weather. I'm waiting on a ton of parts anyways, and I don't really have anything else going on, so might as well. Okay, so we've got the other side already undone. So we're gonna start on this side. It's looking like a T45 here. Okay, then for our O'Lean's reservoir mount, we have a 3/16 Allen ×2. There's also some washers and spacers in there that they give you, so all that's gonna fall out. As you guys can see, it's all interconnected with the tour pack mounting hardware. So as soon as all of that comes off, so does that. So now we're removing these bottom bolts. We're using a T40 and a T45. Backed with either a 1/2 inch or a 9/16. It's not right, it's definitely a metric nut on the backside, but it holds the nut from spinning. Tell you what, it is definitely time to take your guys' advice and buy a motorcycle lift. So that's definitely gonna happen like before the next video. Okay, so everything's loosened up here. Now this reservoir hose stops this from being able to slip all the way out. So all I need to do though is that much to get the fender to drop. And now I should just be able to pull it back and out. And I'm gonna have to figure out the wire. So let's see what we get. Okay, so upon further inspection, the license plate wire is in a rubber, kind of a gasket material almost, that runs all the way along the upper part of the fender, and it's just double-sided taped in there. So we're gonna just peel it off the double-sided tape, and there's one little tab here that we need to bend out of the way. Then we can just remove it from the fender, and the fender should come right out. So this is that rubber gasket material that is just double-sided taped to the inside of your fender. That'll be easy enough to get some new double-sided tape, and no problem. So let's see if we can roll this fender right on out now. And there we go. All right, so now that we have the fender on the workbench, first thing we're gonna do is remove the plate mount. I am gonna be reusing the curved plate frame, but not the actual mount assembly. Okay, so now that we have the plate mount off, plate surround, all that, we can talk about what our intentions are here. So there are a ton of holes in this fender. You've got the 4 that I drilled, you've got the stock ones, you've got this divot for the bracket with the stud on the back side. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes on each side for the stock taillights. Just a bunch of holes. And most people, if you see a fender that has no holes on it, it's because it's a carbon fender or whatever and it's been repainted. But most people don't go through the trouble of doing what I am going to do, but that is why I like being me. So we are going to grind the paint off around all of these holes. We are going to weld them, and we're going to smooth it all out. And then it'll be pretty much prepped for my painter to then just hit it with a high build primer, and then he'll sand it smooth. There's not gonna be any need for any Bondo or bodywork or anything like that. Body filler, I should say. So it's gonna be pretty clean. I think it's gonna look really good being repainted again, the same color. Now, I would not obviously go through all this trouble if I wasn't planning on painting some other things, but I do have my tour pack that I wanna paint white, as well as I did order those Amazon side covers, the CVO style side covers. I don't like them. I don't really think that I'm actually gonna run them on the bike, but I figure while I'm having the rest of this stuff painted, I would have him shoot those. That way, if I ever want a pair, I've already got a paint matched pair ready to go. So as for plate mount situation, this is a plate mount from Carbon Visionary. I don't like it. The quality of it is pretty, I think, rushed. Yeah, it's probably laser jetted cut out, which is nice, but all of these edges are really sharp. They're not like smoothed out or anything like that. Hard corners and edges, if you were to get this powder coated, are the first place that powder coat is then going to crack and break off. Usually a really good shop will round off all sharp edges and 90-degree angles so that the powder coat can stick better. So what I'm gonna end up doing is on the outer edges, I'm gonna do that. Any of the inner edges are gonna be covered by the plate anyways, so that's fine, but I do want the powder coat to have as best a chance as possible to stay a long time. But other thing is, this is supposed to mount to the outsides here, and that's cool. I don't really like the contour of it, and I think we can do a little bit better. So what I'm gonna end up doing is removing this setup. I'll show you guys in closer once I get to that, but I'm basically going to replace these spacers that you see here behind the nut and use the bracket and a little thin washer. That way it is much more flush and everything will just fit better. And I'll show you guys what that looks like once we get into it. But first things first, I think we need to make a mess of this fender. All right, well, there's no going back from this. Okay, so we have the side holes grinded down. Paint is now stripped. We have these ones all cleared out. I cut out a bunch of the scrap steel. I ended up bowing this piece a little bit. This piece is a little bit bigger. It's going for where the bracket, that plastic bracket was for the plate going through, the wiring and all. So this piece is a little bit bowed to match the contour of the fender. So as you can see, there's the metal plate backing it. I've got a magnet holding it in place. One thing to keep in mind, when welding on really thin, this is 18 gauge steel, or really anything, it will warp from the heat if you do not take like breaks. So we're just gonna do one little weld on each corner of that, and then we're gonna step away from that and go to a different spot You don't want the fender to warp because then you would have to use body filler. So you just have to really be patient with that stuff, let it cool off, and then you can keep beating it in, and it's the right way to do it. So let's jump in. All right, you guys, we've got all these holes welded up. I'm starting to realize this is gonna be a couple-day project. I'll take you in and show you what they look like. So it's nothing pretty because you end up having to do multiple dollops on each spot so that you don't heat warp them, but they're all filled, both sides. The big pocket here. So now what we're gonna do is hit it with a grinder, kind of flatten it out, see where we're at. We might have to add a little bit more weld in some spots, but should be pretty close. All right, you guys, we've got the fender welded up. We've got it all ground down. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like and where we go from here. So we've got all of the holes welded up. I used a patch for this bigger one here, and then this one was not even really a hole, it was just that inset for the stud. Now that's nice and smoothed out. Pretty dang clean. I ground down a little bit lower than the rest of the surface, so I'll be able to high build primer and fill all that in nice and smooth and level. Got the sides done as well. Pretty clean. Same thing over here. And as you guys can see, there's our tack welds on the inside. Not pretty, but I'll grind them out later. There's the outside. Not bad. Basically all I have to do is prime these spots and feather it all in. And then my painter will be able to just do body work on the whole thing, just basically sand the whole thing and then reshoot, and it'll be good. So having said that, obviously this process takes quite a while. I started like 7 hours ago, and I've got it where I want it now to where I can go get some high build primer, but it's after 7 p.m. and they're closed, and I'm pretty done with it for today. So tomorrow I will grab some high build primer and we'll shoot all that and smooth it and show you guys kind of how much cleaner it looks once you have a nice like even layer on there. And then we need to figure out that license plate mount. It's gonna need a ton of bending. It does not fit right at all. So we'll figure that out, but I wanna get it all bent and figured out before I take it to powder. That way, you know, I don't have to tweak it and risk chipping the paint or anything like that. So other than that, I will catch you guys in the morning. All right, good morning, you guys. We are back at it. I've got a couple of extra errands I need to run today. I gotta get some propane, and then I got to get a new thermocouple for my parents, put it in their propane fireplace along with grabbing that high build primer. And I'll hit you guys with a cold start in the BMW today. Okay, we're back. We've got our primer. Parents' fireplace is taken care of. Give you guys a couple of revs now that the car's warm, and we'll get in the shop and get on this fender. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that little sound clip. Here we are at our fender. I've got the fender all masked off. Now, this is gonna be my spray areas. Once I've kind of got those coats going, I will end up sanding and feathering it out, and then I will remove the tape and then feather it out a little bit more. I just like to do this, that way I have a good base point. I know how much I've kind of built up, and just try to keep things as thin as possible while still making sure that everything is now smoothed out. So we're gonna see how this goes. Give this a good shake, get it over to an area where I feel like it's gonna be good to spray, and we'll do it. So I forgot to mention the exact product I'm using, Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 filler and sandable. It's just a high build primer, and it's an automotive based, so most paints that you're going to use in the automotive world will work for this. So I'm sure my painter will end up using his own primer before, you know, shooting it with the final coat, but this is going to get this thing really smoothed out and close for him. and then he can do any touch-ups from there that he needs. Okay, the other thing that I really like about this primer is it makes it a lot easier to then see any imperfections. So yeah, a few coats of this, get a little bit of buildup, and this should go pretty dang good. So there's our first coat. As you can see, we have those low spots where we've welded and grinded. That's exactly what I want. That's gonna allow me to fill that little bit of a dip and smooth it all out to the rest of the fender. The reason we do that is if you were to have the weld spots higher, you would have to feather the whole fender to those high spots. So much easier to just have those little dimples and then fill those in. All right, good morning, you guys. It is a couple of days later and we're back here in the garage. I wanted to give this plenty of time to cure, and it's still a little bit, you know, you can like run your nails through it. I did like 10 coats of this high build primer to really just get as much on as I can, and then now I'll smooth out all of the high stuff, and hopefully we end up with just the low spots that are filled in. And it's not gonna be perfect. I just wanted to get it close, and I wanted to have the fender completely covered with paint or primer so that we don't have any rust issues. I did order all of the paint from Color-Right, and we'll talk about that when I do my video on obviously having the stuff painted. But just for now, so that I can throw the fender back on the bike, be able to ride the bike, if we get any dry days in the near future, I can do that, and then obviously I just pull the fender back off. Painter can do any final prep work that the fender needs, and then he'll shoot it. So we're gonna set you guys down and start sanding on this, and kind of see where we end up. Okay, we've got it all masked off, ready to coat. Now, again, don't judge. I know right in here, and maybe a little bit of other feathering is gonna be needed still, but it's pretty close. All right, so we have a couple of coats on the fender. It looks really, really good as this is starting to dry. You can really see this is, I'm very happy with it. I've done this a few times on a few different things. I have shaved like antenna holes or rear windshield wiper setups on like, you know, the trunk lids of cars. So I've done this a few times, and I have learned from some mistakes, like I've said in the past about that heat warping thing. So really stoked with how this turned out. I'm going to move this over to the fireplace, kind of just accelerate the drying process. And I have the back end of the bike reassembled enough to roll it out and give it a wash. I have a rag underneath the seat on the seat tray there, so no water gets in on top of the ECM or any of that stuff. And so yeah, we're gonna pull it out and give it a wash. That way, once the fender's dry, we can throw it on. We've got a pretty looking bike, and yeah, so stick with me. I don't want to turn the ignition on and give the ECM a bunch of codes for none of the rear taillight stuff connected, so we're just going to push the bike out. All right, we're back in the garage. The bike is all washed up, and I think it looks freaking awesome with all that stuff off of it. We got the fender over there baking next to the fire. And speaking of baking, the girlfriend has put me in charge of helping her with baking some Rice Krispie treats for a friend's potluck tonight. So I'm gonna help her do that. Let the fender cure overnight so the primer is really nice and dry, and I'll give it a light sand tomorrow. We'll throw the bike all back together so I can show you guys the end result, what it looks like, obviously besides paint. and then I get to start on my new seat review slash unboxing slash whatever. So, catch you guys in the morning. All right, good morning. We are back here in the garage and the fender looks freaking amazing. It's like 90% of the way there for sure. Really happy with how that turned out for now. Just did a time lapse for you guys. You'll see of the license plate bracket. Needed a ton of work to make it right. I needed to file it down. I needed to drill it out. I needed to make some adjustments to the angle at which it mounts. The bends, I mean, it was a lot of work to get it pretty much right. But now we've got some just quick satin black. Just gonna rattle can it for now. That way everything looks a bit presentable. In a few weeks, I'll get the fender paint matched, and then probably the same time that I have the bike torn apart for that, I will pull a few things off that I want to get powdered black. That license plate bracket will be one of those things that I get powdered, and it'll all come together over the next few months this winter. So set you guys down and we'll spray that license plate bracket real quick. All right, you guys, I'm pretty pumped. We are ready to start putting things back together and finally see the result of all of our hard work here, and then finally get to open up that dang seat. So we have some heavy duty indoor outdoor mounting tape from Gorilla. That is going to go along the rubber piece here that the wire runs through for the license plate light, and then it's going to get restuck on the inside of the fender here. I've already cleaned all of it up with acetone so we get some good adhesion, and this double-sided tape is just going to get peeled back and stuck down in the fender here. I'm not worried about any of this other stuff yet. I'll grind that stuff down and he'll shoot the inside of this fender with the white paint as well so that there's no rust in the future. But for now, this is going to be just fine. Okay, so I'm looking at how I'm going to make sure that this does not obviously rub on the tire or anything like that. These are just double-sided taped, these hooks. As you can see, I'm able to wobble it. So I'm gonna pry one of these off, double-sided tape it over here, and that's gonna hold it out of the way, and then I can make that connection and not have any issues. All right, so here's what we've got for the license plate wiring. We have it running along underneath here. I'll end up probably having it zip tied up under there. Pretty clean that way, and then it'll be down and in between hidden there. And then on the underside, I have it just coming along here, strapped in here, double-sided tape just like factory, this double-sided tape just like factory. This connector is right here. Not sure if that's gonna end up being a problem or not. I will let you guys know. If it is, I will either heat shrink it or relocate it, extend it longer on the license plate side of things so that I can put it down into the fender here and then slip it actually into this rubber piece because there is room in this channel. That would be the nicest way to do it anyways. I would like that. So that's probably what I'll end up doing either way when I have the final product and I have the time to do it right when I have this all painted. So that's what we've got. It's ready to go on the bike. There you guys have it. We have complete back end back together. Everything's tight, hopefully. It should be. Yeah, so fender's totally shaved. All the holes are gone. There were 18 holes total that we filled. There was the big square one that the wire goes through, that the plastic triangle bolts in on the backside or clips in. There were the 2 holes for the stock license plate mount setup. And then there was that, not technically a hole, but that big divot where the stud is for that big fender bracket down below. So that makes 4. Then I drilled 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 for my license plate mount. You guys saw that video most likely. And then there was 5 on each side for the tail light. So yeah, quite a bit of work, quite a bit of time, but I'm really happy with the end result. I really like the way that the license plate mount sits. It's gonna look a lot better too once it's obviously powder coated versus just a crappy quick satin black spray paint job. I will do some final centering, squaring things up when I decide to take the stuff back off to get it painted. But for now, I'm gonna bring you guys in, show you how we turned out with the bodywork on the fender, and just give you guys a couple kind of glamour shots of it, and we'll talk about it on the way out. So it's by no means perfect, but it's really dang close, and my painter will be able to get it the rest of the way. So all of those holes are gone. It looks really good and clean. You'd never know they were there. Same with the fender here. I mean, that's pretty dang good. Like, yeah, I mean, you put water on it and you'll see any sort of imperfections, but right now, I mean, it looks phenomenal. So I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. Like I said, the fender's not wavy at all, so it still looks really good along the taillights there. Last thing you want is kind of like a bacon strip looking fender. So yeah, that's kind of the best I can do in terms of bringing you guys in close and keeping it honest with how good my body work was. And then obviously here's our plate mount from Carbon Visionary. Looks really good. Fun fact, my girlfriend, one of her favorite animals is a shark. There's a shark on there, so hopefully that makes her want to ride with me more. I don't know if that's quite how it works, but you know. So no holes in the fender whatsoever. We just have the wire running underneath and then down, and it just disappears in between the mounting hardware here for your tour pack or whatever it is that you're going to run on the back there. So really happy with how clean that turned out. As you guys saw, it lit right up, so that's good. No issues there. I am going to have to shave it down just a tiny, tiny bit right here. It is interfering with the tour pack mount stuff, so no biggie. I will grind it down just a tiny bit before I get it powder coated. I just have to remember that. Other than that, I think it looks freaking sweet. Alright you guys, that is going to do it for this one. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching and maybe found it informational. If you've never seen bodywork done or metal work done like this, obviously there'll be somebody in the comments that maybe has more experience with doing this type of stuff and they would say I did something wrong, but realistically I welded it all the holes completely on the front and back side, grinded it smooth so there's no holidays there. I used no body filler, just high build primer. Just a tiny, tiny bit in the low spots, and then everything else is just smoothed out from there. Nice block sand, and it's ready for my painter to kind of give the final touches to it. So I'm really, really excited to get it painted, show you guys the complete result. I really like the way that the new plate mount is set up. I think it looks really unique and kind of follows that theme with the reservoir mounts where everything's kind of just floating back there. It's not going to be for everybody. It's definitely more that performance bagger type thing, but it's neat and different nonetheless. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions for me, comments, anything of the sort, please leave them down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and please subscribe because I'm about to film my brand new seat unboxing for you guys. So catch you guys in my next off week.